Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101.
Happy New Year, everybody! 2015.
Here we are, baby. This is the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn.
Breaking the Sports Econ 101 cherry for 2015.
2015.
Wow.
And
we made it.
We sure did.
Hello, America.
Let's see. We've been doing this since May of 2013.
Yeah, we're graybeards now. We've been going back that far.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, well, Bruce McGowan was going to be with us, but unfortunately he couldn't make it today.
Bruce on the 3-day hangover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask him
For
about
New
that
Year's
next
Eve.
week. Okay, so what do we do? We're going to be asking sports trivia questions at every commercial break, giving away vacations, the first 3 emails with the correct answer.
Uh-huh.
And let's see here. You can listen to Sports Econ 101 on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Sports Byline USA, and CRN. And today's trivia theme is football flakes.
Football flakes.
Football flakes.
Okay.
We're getting into the playoffs here, so we're going to talk about football flakes.
Let's do it.
This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8% secured by real estate.
Not 7, not 9.
But over 8%. That's right. Doesn't get any more conservative than that. They've been a good sponsor of Sports Econ 101. We love talking about them. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. We're going to talk about a few things here. Grant Hill talked about Derrick Rose playing hard. Saw a little Sports Illustrated.
Okay, all right.
We'll talk about that. If we have time, we'll talk a little bit about Bob Ueker and Howard Cosell funnies, Colin Kaepernick's contract, and Miami Marlins lineup. They just got Michael Morse.
There you go.
You know, it goes right from
The Beast.
The Beast
In South Florida.
And that's his hometown.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of free agents, wholesale changes from team to team.
Okay, so we're going to talk about what's going on with the Miami Marlins. Ought to be interesting. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We will be right back. Homer seems like a very nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I actually went to school with Paul's sister in college. Brilliant young lady, I'll tell you. Actually, we both went to College of Redmond. We both went to the university.
There you go.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX-TV in San Francisco. Bruce McGowan is off today. We're going to cover for him. No special guests, just the special host.
It's just you and me.
And you and me.
And you.
Out there in TV land.
That's right.
And radio land. Okay, so let's... I don't know if you read this Sports Illustrated article about Grant Hill saying... I'm going to read this part here. It said... He understands why Bulls star Derrick Rose paces himself to protect his long-term health. He says, I'm the poster child of someone not being paced, Hill said. The scars mentally and emotionally from being out for those 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
To think he can snap his fingers and play with reckless abandonment, it's not going to happen. So that kind of reminds me of, Ken Griffey Jr. Remember how he used to just crash into the walls with reckless abandonment? I mean, fantastic fielder, but gosh darn it, you hated to see him get hurt.
Well, there's 2 ways to play this game. One, just kind of thinking ahead and thinking about the longevity of your career, and the other one is just thinking, just playing and just living in the moment. I mean, if you're playing defense and the ball is close, you got to catch it, go get it. I mean, it's what you paid for, And so I can understand being an outfielder and crashing in the wall and all that kind of stuff. But when you're a little guy, when you're a guard in the NBA, and you're going up inside in those trees, and you're going to get hit, you better check yourself.
Well,
because if you get injured, if you can't play, then it's bad. I mean, you're paid to be on the court. And Grant Hill, again, yeah, he's right. because he had an off-injury career. He's enjoying doing a bunch of
Media
commercials
stuff.
now. Yeah, but I'm sure those are 2 years that he would like to have known. Well, what could have been had I been healthy?
I wonder if the coaches have any influence. Can they really tell a player, don't work, not don't work as hard, but don't play as hard, so to speak?
No, you can't do that because I mean these are elite athletes. I mean they're paid to go at one speed, and that's all out.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird. Sometimes I watch a game where, and again, it's kind of second guessing because I'm not in the game at the time. But sometimes you see a guy go to the outfield, and you say, if he would have just jumped,
He would have been able to make the play. Yeah.
And it's like he wouldn't have gotten hurt, but they always have to kind of put their hand against the wall, make sure that with the warning track and all, and that I understand completely. Just kind of wondering, I thought it was very interesting because again, where's the balance? You want to see a guy play hard, but you don't want to see him get hurt.
No, you're right. And if you're playing fantasy baseball and your guy's out there, you're playing him, you don't want him to get hurt either, because it goes against you. I mean, and it's in baseball that really is a performance based profession. Because if you're out of there, the next guy comes in, and if that guy gets hot, starts hitting the bat, guess who sits?
Yeah,
you do.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I was remembering. Was it 2010 with the 2010, right? The Giants didn't even have Zito pitch at all. And here's a guy, big contract and all that, but they just said, yeah, you know what, you just don't have it right now, so we're going with the guys who do have it.
Right. We'll take the 4 wins you gave us, and then we'll sit you down, and then carry the load. But hey, he got a playoff share because they won the whole thing.
That's right. And then in 2012, he had a very good game against St. Louis to get him into the World Series. Gotta give him credit.
And
for that.
now he's actually talking comeback.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, Zeke. Yeah, been working on Texas. Yeah, he wants to come back. He wants to lock on.
When was the last game he played? You remember?
He was out.
He was out all 2014.
Yeah.
And
So
he was out 2013, right?
No, 2013 was it. Yeah, and then that was
Okay.
and he was gone.
We'll see if he comes back. How old is he?
Early 30s,
Okay, that's
33,
still
4,
young
something
enough.
like that.
That's still young enough. Okay, let's move on here to Colin Kaepernick's record $126 million contract. So I'm reading an article on this Yahoo, and it's a Yahoo, and it says it was a complete sham. It says Colin Kaepernick is not going to get...
It's a sham for other players. It's a sweet deal for the 49ers.
But yeah, well, that's the interesting thing here, because it says he's not going to get all of his $126 million. All right? It says his nightmare season this year, or excuse me, 2014, he could receive as little as $25.5 million, which is still a lot of money, but again, we're comparing it to the $126 million. So the contract he signed gave him a $12 million signing bonus and a 2014 salary of just $645,000. Right? So he was supposed to get his first large salary of almost $12.5 million in the 2015 season, but because of the way the contract was worded, that salary is actually going down to $10 million. All right, starting next season, Kaepernick's salary goes down $2 million each year if he is not named first or second All-Pro, or if the 49ers don't play in the Super Bowl in the previous season.
Yeah, what a challenge is that to Colin Kaepernick, who, I mean, let's just face it, I mean, he really regressed as a player.
Yeah.
He didn't have the numbers, he didn't produce, and that the 49ers couldn't score in the second half. I mean, it was amazing. They're averaging 4 and 5 points for the second half for the season. I mean, you don't win games like that, and then who knows what the direction of this franchise is going to be for 2015. We won't know for quite some time. We won't know until probably we get close to training camp, when you got the whole new administration in and they try to move forward. I mean, but for Kaepernick, yeah, he'll be your starting quarterback, but man, he's got to work with a guy that's going to make him a better quarterback. Unless somebody shows up and says, well, you know what? Last year they tried to make you somebody that you're not. You use your legs. You're a read option quarterback. You throw only when you have to. You got a rocket arm, and we like that. If you want to have a 7 route, a go route, a deep route, or whatever, fine. The dink and dunk, that's not for you.
Do you think
So we're gonna.
Harbaugh's coming back?
No, hell no. In fact, for this, just for the beauty of this show, as we tape it, Harbaugh could be gone by the time we hit air. Before it.
Yeah. No, that's true because they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Could be gone.
Yeah.
One last thing about Kaepernick's contract. This here, many outlets were reporting that Kaepernick's deal included a record $61 million in, quote, guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that the money was guaranteed only for injury. Each year of the contract, the 49ers can decide to cut Kaepernick before April 1 and will not owe him any money.
How about that?
Boy, I wonder if he kind of like...
Because across the board, NFL contracts are not guaranteed. These guys are playing for pretty much bonus money. That's where the money is, not the base.
No, that's true. Who knows? Maybe he'll get some lucrative signing deal, commercials or something.
Now with the image he's got, commercials, he'll get a little bit of love, but he ain't gonna be doing any State Farm commercials like the Aaron Rodgers of the world.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Especially with those tattoos. I don't think they really care for those tattoos in the media, do they?
I don't care whether they're I'm sure they're all biblical tattoos, but biblical, gangster, whatever. Just corporate America, they just they look at tattoos and they're gonna look at you negative.
See, we don't like those tats.
No.
Okay, we're gonna cut to our first commercial break. The theme is football flakes.
Okay.
All right. I called my Hall of Fame coach a plastic man. Actually, no man at all. My first 2 years in the NFL were brilliant as I led my team in rushing and they made the Super Bowl, but I wasn't impressed. In one of the few times I spoke to the press, I wondered, if the Super Bowl is really the ultimate game, how come they're playing it again next year? No one had a good answer. Who am I? All right?
Wow.
Okay, so I'm going to read that one more
Okay,
time.
his first 2 years, he led the team in rushing, right?
It says, he led the team in rushing.
Led the team in rushing and led them to the Super Bowl.
That's right. Okay, so again.
And he rarely talked to the media.
That's right. It says here, I called my Hall of Fame coach a plastic man. Actually, no man at all. My first 2 years in the NFL were brilliant as I led my team in rushing and they made the Super Bowl, but I wasn't impressed. In one of the few times I spoke to the press, I wondered, if the Super Bowl is really the ultimate game, how come they're playing it again next year? No one had a good answer. Who am I?
Made the Super Bowl, not won the Super Bowl. Made the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
right?
I don't remember if they did definitely win a Super Bowl. I don't remember if they won that year though.
So this guy flavor team that did win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Okay, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, and I would love to say that Vern and Bruce are here, but those rascals, Vern had to go do his day job, being on KPIX TV, San Francisco, doing the sports show, to cut out of Sports Econ 101 a little early. Bruce McGowan is off today. When we cut to our first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is NFL football flakes. I called my Hall of Fame coach a plastic man. Actually, no man at all. My first 2 years in the NFL were brilliant as I led my team in rushing and they made the Super Bowl, but I wasn't impressed. In one of the few times I spoke to the press, I wondered, if the Super Bowl is really the ultimate game, how come they're playing it again next year? No one had a good answer. Who am I? And the answer was Dwayne Thomas of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't remember which year he said that, if they won Super Bowl that year or if that was the year that they lost to the Colts. Can't remember. I'll have to look that one up. Let's see here. In going to a little bit of baseball here, the Miami Marlins lineup. So just reading here, first of all, we already know that the Miami Marlins gave Giancarlo Stanton the richest contract in Major League Baseball history, which I thought was kind of cool because if we all remember last year, he got kind of snagglepussed. He got hurt. And for him to come back the way he did and for them to give him a big contract, I thought was pretty cool. So they also traded for Dee Gordon and Matt Latos, two players who immediately would make them better. And they reportedly signed slugger Michael Morse to a 2-year contract. And for those of us in the Bay Area here, we we remember Michael Morris, kind of a big powerhouse. Apparently, he comes from Florida, so he'll be going back home. But I remember watching him in spring training. Went to a couple of games, and I thought from the beginning, I thought, this kid is good. He's got a lot of power. And sure enough, people will remember him from the Giants. Still fresh in our minds. His thrilling pinch hit home run in the NLCS and his 4 RBIs in the World Series. So he's had an up and down career, but 2011 he did really well. He hit 31 home runs, 65 RBIs for the Washington Nationals, and but he didn't do too well apparently with the Mariners or Orioles, it says here. So anyway, he's going to Miami, and it looks like they are going to have quite a rich team. We will see if they will be back to the old Florida Marlins the way they used to be. That'll be kind of fun. And then let's see, Giancarlo Stanton. So he was asked. I thought it was kind of funny. He was asked about his $325 million contract if he was embarrassed by it, and he compared it to winning the lottery. Except he can't quit his day job. He's now starting to earn it. So I thought that was kind of cool. That was a good answer. Moving on here. Again, I'm reading this from Sports Illustrated from a couple of weeks ago. I thought this was kind of funny. 164 feet. That was the approximate distance from Wembley Stadium to the hotel being used by the Slovenian national soccer team. They wanted to walk, but the UEFA ordered them to take the bus before their match against England to ensure they wouldn't be late. And they lost 3-1 anyway. So what I'm gathering from this is, let's see, they could have just walked 164 feet, which is, let's see, 1/10, 1/40th of a mile, something like that, 1/30th of a mile. I mean, it's really short. And they were insisted upon to take the bus. It used to remind me of my dad and his friend who couldn't walk very far, had to take a cab from one casino to the other. Kind of strange, but anyway, that's that story. And let's see what else we got here. Plot twists. So looking at some kind of interesting things again, looking at an old, this was June 16th of 2014, Sports Illustrated, got to give them credit for putting this together. Plot twists. They went back, they were talking about game 1 of the NBA Finals, how the air conditioning had gone out, causing the Heat, star LeBron James, to cramp up and miss almost all of the final 7 minutes and 31 seconds, during which the Spurs came back to win. Afterward, social media was alive with unsavory suggestions, which also reminded me, weren't the Ravens and 49ers, Ravens were killing the 49ers, and then suddenly the lights went out, and the 49ers had a almost historic comeback until the very last play of the game, which still upsets me because I think they should have still called Colin Kaepernick to run the ball, or at least a read option. It looked like he was just throwing the whole time. I don't understand that. So they went back in time here, and they're talking about just famous plot twists. 1951, the shot heard round the world. Bobby Thompson hitting a walk-off home run to win the NL pennant for the Giants. The theory was that New York stole pitches at the Polo Grounds. And it says here, the Giants admitted doing it during the season, but Thompson swore he was not tipped off that day. Of course, the thing is, even if you're tipped off, I mean, you still have to swing the bat and still hit it well. So, even if you're tipped off, I don't know how well that you can do. Of course, wasn't it Will Clark who read the lips of Wild Thing from the Cubs, Mitch Williams? And I think that was him. And he read that it was going to be a fastball inside, I think, and he hit it right up the middle to get them into the World Series. And if people don't remember, Bobby Thompson hitting the home run, who was on deck? The most famous baseball player I've ever witnessed, Willie Mays. And if I remember correctly, 1951 was his rookie year. So good old 20-year-old Willie was on deck. He got a first-hand view of Bobby Thompson hitting that home run. 1965, the Phantom Punch. Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston with a blow that barely seemed to make contact. And here was the theory. The Mafia ordered Liston to take a dive. So they looked back on time, and Liston was an ex-con with the mob ties, but Ali was better and had TKO'd him in 1964. So we don't know if he took a powder, as they say, took a dive, or if there was any mafia involved in that one. Okay, 1973, the Battle of the Sexes. Billie Jean King routed Bobby Riggs in a made-for-TV tennis match. And the theory here, Riggs threw the match to cover his gambling losses. Riggs was 55, Billie Jean King was 29, and had just won her 5th Wimbledon singles title. And I remember watching that live and thinking, the thing I think is unfair about that is that, if I remember correctly, he had to play as though he was playing doubles, so that Billie Jean King was able to hit it into the doubles part, and he had to play against her with just hitting it into the singles. And I'm thinking, if you're trying to make it even-steven, why don't you just go ahead and just play on the same terms? She probably still could have beaten him. Okay, 1985, the NBA draft lottery. The Knicks won the number 1 pick with, which became Patrick Ewing. The team's envelope, here's the theory, the team's envelope was doctored so David Stern could find it. It says here, there was upside for the NBA in having the country's most famous collegian go to New York. That'd be interesting. I'd like to ask David Stern about that and see if that's true. Okay, 1993, Michael Jordan retires. His airness walked away at 30 after a three-peat. You remember, of course, playing with the Bulls. Here was the theory. Jordan was facing a suspension for alleged gambling debts. And then it says on the scale of 1 to, 10 or something, it was only a scale of 1. Jordan didn't have anything more to prove, though he returned in 1995 and led the Bulls on another three-peat. You remember he changed his number, he went to 23, and then he went to number 45. I think he went back to number 23. I'll have to look that one up. The Bloody Sock. Effects from Curt Schilling's ankle surgery was evident as he beat the Yankees in the 2004 ALCS. And the theory, Orioles broadcaster Gary Thorne said on the air that he'd been told it was paint and not blood. But then on a scale of 1 to 10, this is only a number 1. Thorne quickly backed off his comments. And I've seen that Bloody Sock in the Hall of Fame. That was kind of cool. Gotta say, that was really neat. Okay, so we are going to be cutting to our second commercial break here, and the theme again is football flakes. My NFL career started in the 1970s. It's a good thing that I was a Super Bowl MVP and Hall of Fame running back. Otherwise, people might remember me for things like shaving my hair into a mohawk, missing an entire season because I felt like it, getting drunk at a congressional dinner, and embarrassing a Supreme Court justice. The list could go on and on. Who am I? The first 3 emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportseCon101.com the answer to this question. My NFL career started in the 1970s. It's a good thing that I was Super Bowl MVP and a Hall of Fame running back. Otherwise, people might remember me more for things like shaving my hair into a mohawk, missing an entire season because I felt like it, getting drunk at a congressional dinner, and embarrassing a Supreme Court justice. The list could go on and on. Who am I? All right, that's our question. Stay with us because you're listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown, because Vern and Bruce have flown the coop for today. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn. Vern was with us for the first two segments, but unfortunately he had to go because he has to go on TV to report sports on KCBS, KPIX TV affiliate in San Francisco. Okay, so here was our second commercial break trivia question, and we're talking about NFL flakes. And I can dare say I think that this guy definitely qualifies as a flake. My NFL career started in the 1970s. It's a good thing that I was a Super Bowl MVP and Hall of Fame running back. Otherwise, people might remember me more for things like shaving my hair into a mohawk, missing an entire season because I felt like it, getting drunk at a congressional dinner, and embarrassing a Supreme Court justice. And the list could go on and on. Who am I? The answer? John Riggins. Remember, I guess they called him, the Diesel for the Washington Redskins. He killed my Miami Dolphins, and I think it was 1983 Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, against the Marx Brothers and Dan Marino. Let's see here. Or actually, I guess Dan Marino started the next year, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, moving on here. Wanted to get into some fun stuff with this. Again is another Sports Illustrated article from the November 3rd, 2014 issue. Great magazine, I gotta say. Let's see. This has to do with Bob Ueker and Howard Cosell funnies. So they were talking about just the various funny things that come out of both of their mouths, especially Bob Ueker. So here's this one thing here. It says, Bob Ueker's mouth makes me belly laugh. A lot of his great stories revolve around how inept a player he was during his career in the 1960s. So he was heard saying this. I hit a grand slam off Ron Herbel, he says, and when his manager, Herman Franks, came out to get him, he brought Herbel's suitcase with him. Thought that was pretty funny. And let's see what else we got here. So you got here, Bob, he goes, Yuki, I get your point, but you don't have to be so truculent. You do know what truculent means, don't you? Because it actually means eager to argue. Ueker, though, however, didn't miss a beat. Of course, Howard. If you had a truck and I borrowed it, it would be a truculent. So Ueker could also use me as a straight man. Again, this is from the article itself. Another time, we were talking about Charlie Finley, the eccentric owner of the A's, and his proposal to manufacture all baseballs in the same yellowish orange as some tennis balls. The idea was that the brighter balls would be easier for fans to follow. It'll never work, Ueker said flatly. Why not? Because, he said in a deadpan face, they could never find enough diseased horses. What a funny guy. Okay, moving on here. Let's see. Do divisions possibly hurt the NFL? So bad teams that happen to win their division make the playoffs, while better teams in a different division, may not do, based on the way the playoff system is structured. So let's see. So you have a situation where a team doesn't make the playoff, but it has a much better record than a team that wins a division. It doesn't happen often, but I guess it's possible. And does that work? Is that fair? Because right now, I guess you got the Saints. By the time this airs, we'll know it a little bit better. But the Saints were, the top team in a pretty bad division. So we'll see how that plays out. And then rivalries in the NFL is good for football, but do so many trades hurt those rivalries? So, I guess the idea here is that you have so many teams with so many trades that you can't tell the players without a scorecard. Trying to follow these players who for years and years had a rivalry against a team, and then suddenly boom, they get traded away. Maybe from the NFL to the AFL, or a totally different division, or maybe they even get traded to one of the rivalries. It just, I don't know, it kind of takes away from it. In the old days, in football, you had, the Raiders versus Kansas City, or the Raiders versus Pittsburgh, even though they weren't even in the same division. But they had the same players with these heated rivalries. In baseball, you have the Giants and the Dodgers. Yeah, there's still that old time rivalry. The Red Sox and Yankees, but the teams, they trade so many of the players that these guys who you kind of make the comparison. That they're a franchise player, and then suddenly they get traded away. I don't know. That kind of seems like that might actually hurt the rivalries. They also had an article talked about Mike Krukow, who, for those of you who don't know, he used to pitch for the Giants, and he's a broadcaster for the Giants now. And he says that the Giants dodged a bullet by not signing John Lester to a 6-year, $150 million contract, stating that the 31-year-old pitcher is too old for a 6-year contract. Do you agree or disagree? I actually agree 100% with Mike Krukow. Firstly, I don't think that Lester was worth $150 million, even if he was younger. He just pitched so poorly with the A's. I know it's only one game, but gosh darn it, he just looked like he just didn't have it. And being 31 years old, I mean, how many years can you really expect a pitcher to last? Of course, you get Nolan Ryan pitching in his 40s. Satchel Paige pitching up until he was in his late 50s, I think. But the average pitcher is just not going to last that long, and with all the trades and all that, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to switch gears for a minute here, and I told this story once before, but I thought it was kind of fun. So my mother's uncle was almost 100 years old back in the 1970s, and one day he was visiting us, and I just happened to be not only looking through my old baseball cards, which my baseball cards only went back to the 1960s, but I was looking through some old baseball books with histories of old players. So my uncle happens to, or my mom's uncle happens to see that, and he says, and then now imagine this guy's almost 100 years old, smokes a cigar, and eats Limburger cheese at the same time. Completely disgusting. And he would come up to me and he'd say, Eddie, give me a kiss. I say, yeah, I don't think so, but how you doing there, Uncle Ben? Anyway, so he looks at what I'm looking at the old baseball books and stuff, and he says, you like baseball, Eddie? And I said, yeah, I love baseball. And he says, do you know anything about old baseball? And I said, yeah, I love old baseball, learning about some of these guys. He said, you ever heard of Hans Wagner? And I said, you mean Hannes Wagner? And he says, yeah, we used to call him Hans. And apparently my mom's uncle grew up in Pittsburgh, and because he was almost 100 years old in in 1974, he was born in the late 1870s, and he used to watch Hannes Wagner play in person. And that just amazed me. And actually, as the years go by, it amazes me even more, because I think about, for me, being a kid, I got to watch Willie Mays play. And that's fantastic. Again, Willie Mays, I think, is still the greatest baseball player who ever lived. But, you look back at some of these people who have passed on. Willie Mays is still alive now. He's about 83. He's almost 84 years old now. And his eyesight's going, but he's still around. You go back to guys like Hannes Wagner, who still has the most important baseball card. That there's only, I think, about 6 of them around, and the main one is in the Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, which I saw, which is really cool. It's worth over $1 million. And to think, this guy who was one of the first 5 players inducted in the Hall of Fame, his baseball card is worth that much. I mean, he was a great player, and there's very little film about him. To be able to say that you actually watched him play is pretty amazing. Now, the story I heard about the baseball card was, there's a couple of things. One, back in those days, I think it was Old Judges was the name of the cigarette company that used to produce tobacco cards, and they would put baseball cards in there. And one story I heard was that he, meaning Hannes Wagner, was anti-tobacco, so he didn't want his baseball card being associated with smoking. and that was one issue. And so he had said, "Hey, that's it. You did this. Stop it now. Get all those baseball cards off the market." The other story I heard was it was strictly just a contract dispute where he said he just didn't get paid for the having his picture on the card and all that. So I don't know which story is real, but I thought it was pretty darn cool. And let's see here. We're going to be going into change subject again. Super Bowl. It's really interesting. Last year, Bruno. I'm going to go to the halftime show. If I understand it correctly, Bruno Mars, who I thought did a very, very good job at halftime. I'm not really into his music too much, but he just did a great job. I thought it was very respectful. He looked great. Music was very good, and I understand that he got paid zero for that. And one would think that he would get paid a lot, but the exposure to literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, if not a billion people. I guess that's what they figured is it's best to just get somebody there who's got so much exposure that, listen, if you want to do this for free, we'll let you do it. And I understand there's a couple more people. If I think correctly, Jennifer Lopez is possibly going to be doing it. The halftime show, they may even expect some of these people to pay in order to get that much exposure. So it'll be very interesting to see who gets the nod this time and whether or not they actually get paid. And the commercials, seems like the commercials have gone downhill, but that's just my opinion. But the prices haven't. I remember many, many years ago, a 30-second commercial cost about $500,000, if I'm not mistaken, and now it's roughly $3 million for a minute commercial. Pretty expensive, boy. You got to really make sure you get your bang for your buck on that. So we are going to cut to our third and final commercial break. Here again, the trivia theme is football flakes. Okay, so here's what the gentleman says here. Wearing my helmet during interviews, appearing in a wedding dress on a magazine cover, leaving my team high and dry by abruptly announcing my retirement just before training camp in 2004. Just another day at the office for me. What running back am I? The first 3 emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Wearing my helmet during interviews, appearing in a wedding dress on a magazine cover, leaving my team high and dry by abruptly announcing my retirement just before training camp in 2004. Just another day at the office for me. What running back am I? And again, the first 3 emails with the correct answer are going to win that free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website, by the way, is lighthouseresortandmarina.com. Make sure that you spell out your email. When you email, we'll have that. You can put your name down there too. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. Stay with us because Sports Econ 101 will be coming back and we're going to have some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan are off for the rest of the time today. Here is our third and final commercial break trivia question. Again, the theme is NFL flakes. Wearing my helmet during interviews, appearing in a wedding dress on a magazine cover, leaving my team high and dry by abruptly announcing my retirement just before training camp in 2004. Just another day at the office. What running back am I? The answer was Ricky Williams, the 1999 Heisman Trophy winner who was so highly sought after that New Orleans Saints coach Mike Ditka at the time traded all his team's draft picks so he could select Williams. And the two appeared on the cover of ESPN magazine as a bride and groom with Williams in a white wedding dress. Pretty amazing. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go to our thoughts for the day. Sweat is your body crying for mercy. Think about that. And obsessed is a word for the unmotivated used to describe the dedicated. Let me read those two again. Sweat is your body crying for mercy. And obsessed is a word the unmotivated use to describe the dedicated. All right? So tune in next week to Sports Econ 101 because we're going to be giving away, we're going to actually be discussing sports topics from a business perspective. We're also going to be giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. I want to also thank our sponsor, Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8% secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. I have my money with them for some of my IRA. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Again, thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week. So long.